Hello, apa khabar semua? Terima kasih kerana datang ke Walas Klasik dan terima kasih juga kepada yang subscribe pada channel saya. Terima kasih. Hari ini saya ada satu cerita tentang bucket list traveller. Bucket list traveller ni rasanya anda kenal dia kerana mereka bukan pertama kali di Malaysia ya. Kali kedua mereka masuk Malaysia, mereka duduk selama 3 bulan. Mereka banyak berpengalaman travel di Malaysia dan mereka menceritakan berkenaan dengan kos ya, kos penginapan, makan, travel dan sebagainya. Jadi tak nak buang masa dan kita akan terus dengar apa yang mereka katakan. Jom kita ke channel dia sekarang.
Are you looking for a great value holiday destination with tropical islands, vibrant cities, delicious food, and some of the friendliest people you'll ever meet? Well, you need to visit Malaysia.
We travelled through this wonderful country for 3 months. So in this Malaysia vlog, we're going to answer the question, how expensive is travelling in Malaysia?
And we've been to Malaysia twice and we absolutely love this country.
Yeah, it is a fantastic country. But if you haven't been there before, why visit Malaysia?
Well, it really has something for everyone. It's got tropical islands, it's got jungles, it's got cities, and it's really quite an underrated destination compared to its neighbours Indonesia, Singapore and Thailand.
Oh, for sure. And what is so amazing about Malaysia is that its diversity of food. You've got Chinese influences, you've got Indian influences, you've got traditional Malay influences, and it all accumulates into this just amazing culinary delight.
Everything is just so delicious there. You will come back weighing a lot more than when you started. It is so worth it. And it is such a great value destination. We were just really surprised at how affordable it is to travel the country. The food's really cheap and you get a lot more bang for your buck in terms of accommodation compared to other places nearby.
Another thing that makes it really easy to travel around Malaysia is that English is widely spoken. So if you are a little bit uncomfortable about going to countries where English isn't the primary language, then Malaysia is certainly a great option for you.
Dive into our Malaysia travel expenses and let's start with accommodation. So we stayed at a big range of accommodation from the very cheap and cheerful all the way up to luxury accommodation, and we paid anywhere from $12 to $174 per night, and on average we spent $20 per night per person.
Yeah, so our cheapest accommodation at $12, that was very, very basic. You can get extremely basic places in Malaysia for very cheap. Our most expensive was Redang Island at the Laguna Resort. As a general rule, you will be paying up to 3 times more if you go to an island for island accommodation than you will on the mainland.
Yeah, and that's just because it's a premium destination.
Now, what was amazing about Laguna Resort is that not only was accommodation included, but 3 snorkeling trips and all your meals. So it was an all-inclusive package for $174. So that was really great value.
Ya, memang untung ya pelancong-pelancong daripada Eropah dan Barat ni bila dia singgah di Malaysia dan duduk lama-lama dan dia boleh duduk di hotel-hotel bajet yang boleh dipercayai, bersih, keselamatan pun okey. Dan macam beliau cakap tadi, mereka pergi ke pulau-pulau dan $174 tu lebih kurang RM800 lah duit Malaysia untuk sepasang 2 orang 1 malam, dah campur dengan aktiviti. Jom kita ke channel.
And we also went to Perhentian Islands and that was around $141 US per night for the both of us. So really, really great value and not that expensive in the grand scheme of things either.
But mainly we stayed in 1-bedroom studio apartments and they were generally around $30 to $40 per night for the both of us and had all the mod cons that you needed.
You'll find plenty of studio apartments in the major cities, so Kuala Lumpur, Johor Bahru, Cyberjaya as well had really affordable accommodation. But if you're travelling along the east coast or smaller cities and towns throughout Malaysia, you will find it really hard to get those sorts of accommodation, and so you'll probably have to opt for hotels instead.
Yeah, and we found the cheapest places to stay for studio apartments were generally Johor Bahru and Cyberjaya was another really affordable destination.
That's just outside Kuala Lumpur, between Kuala Lumpur and the airport, so it's quite a convenient location.
Yeah, so that's our hot tip. So just as a general guide, for accommodation, if you're going to Malaysia on a budget, expect to pay around $4 to $14 per night for a bed in a dorm.
For mid-range accommodation, you're looking at anywhere between $6 to $40 for a room or a studio apartment.
And then for luxury accommodation, expect to pay anywhere from $40 a night for a room, all the way up to $650 per night.
And now for some general Malaysia accommodation tips. There are 2 monsoon seasons in Malaysia and they affect different regions at different times. So the best time to visit the east coast of Malaysia, as well as islands such as Perhentian Island, Tioman Island and Redang Island, is actually in the period between June and September. Now, if you want to visit Kuala Lumpur, the islands of Langkawi and Penang, then the best time to visit then is between December and March.
And if you're looking to book accommodation online, the 2 biggest providers are Booking.com and Agoda. Now, we generally found Agoda was a bit cheaper than Booking.com. And if you go directly to the hotel, you might be able to get a cheaper rate, but you do have to weigh that up against the extra time to wait for them to get back to you. And not all hotels are great at responding to emails.
We made good use of Airbnb during our time in Malaysia. So if you want a 1-bedroom studio, then Airbnb will have so many options for you. Now, as we said before, the 1-bedroom studio apartments are going to be in big supply in the big cities. However, you will find outside of the big cities that there isn't much stock when it comes to Airbnb, and you're going to have to go for a hotel. And
from the start of 2023, Malaysia is starting to implement a tourist tax of 10 ringgit per night,
which is around $2 US.
Malaysian food costs. Food in Malaysia is so widely available, it's delicious, it's cheap, and the best value places are the food courts, or medan seleras, as they're known in Malaysia, or street food and night markets. So at one of these places, expect to pay around $1 to $3 for a dish.
Yeah, they're definitely the cheapest places to get fed when you're in Malaysia. In comparison, the fast food chains like McDonald's and KFC are relatively expensive. Now, you can also get the national dishes or traditional dishes in these restaurants. So nasi lemak, which is like the national Malaysian dish, you can get at McDonald's for around 16 ringgit, which is around $3 US. However, at a food court, you'll be able to get it for around 6.50 ringgit, which is only $1.40. So there's a big difference. And the quality isn't much different. If anything, it's better getting it at the food court.
So if you wanted to go a bit more upmarket and get a restaurant meal, expect to pay around $6.50 to $13 for a dish.
So in terms of our overall cost breakdowns for food, we had a combination of making our own food, mainly breakfasts, and occasionally dinner and lunch. But for the most part, we ate out because it's just so cheap. It's so good. So our average cost per day per person eating out was only $4 US. Yeah, it was amazing. And our cost per person per day for our groceries was less than a US dollar per day. And it worked out to be around $12 US per week for the both of us. So really, really inexpensive.
And there's so many must-eat foods in Malaysia, but some of our favourites, well, my personal favourite is mee curry. It's a curry soup, which is just so good.
Yeah, my favourite was nasi kerabu. It was really, really delicious. Also satay. Satay is my go-to dish as well when I'm in Malaysia.
Boleh katakan YouTuber-YouTuber yang datang daripada Eropah dan negara barat ni, dia dah banyak kenal makanan kita dan minuman ni. Macam tadi yang dia cakap nasi kerabu, nasi lemak memang semua orang dah tahulah. Tapi nasi kerabu, sedap Bandung ni semua, bila YouTuber ni dah datang dan dia boleh katakan dah memperkenalkan di seluruh dunia, dan juga dia dah bagi tahu kawan-kawan dia, ya, kalau masuk Malaysia, pergi tempat ni, makan ni.
Now, one must-eat Malaysian dish is the national dish, nasi lemak. You can get it everywhere for as little as 3 ringgit or less than $1, and it is so delicious.
It's traditionally a breakfast dish, but you can find it any time of day.
Now, other dishes you must try are the desserts. You've got ice kacang, you've got chendol. They're ice dishes with a lot of extra yummy stuff thrown in. So good, so refreshing.
Yeah, it's just great to try it in the really hot Malaysian heat. They're just perfect.
And you mustn't forget the drinks. So some of our favourites are syrup bandung and the coconut shake.
Costs. So transport in Malaysia is so inexpensive, it's really handy to get around. So we mainly took trains and buses to get across the country. You can also fly as well, and that's really inexpensive too. So through AirAsia, you can get flights across the country for less than $50. There is also Malaysia's version of Uber called Grab, and this is a cheap way of getting around cities. This is particularly handy outside big cities where public transport options might be a little bit lacking.
And for buses, we paid between $1 to $4 per person for a trip. We took mainly short trips, a couple of hours each, and our most expensive bus trip was between Kuantan and Kuala Terengganu. But on average, we paid $1.70 per person for a bus ride.
Boleh katakan Malaysia ni one-stop center ya untuk pengembara daripada luar negara ni datang singgah di sini dan mereka boleh experience semua ya, semua sekaligus macam pulau-pulau, hutan-hutan tropika, kota-kota, kampung-kampung dan sebagainya.
Now for buses, you can buy tickets online. We generally bought our tickets from the ticket office at the bus terminals. And for some buses, you can buy your tickets on the bus itself, particularly for metro buses. We recommend bringing the exact change with you because not all places give change.
So with the inner city trains, we travelled from Johor Bahru to Kluang, and we also took the Malaysia Jungle Railway through the top part of Malaysia all the way through the middle, and it was so amazing. So we highly recommend that. We had such an overwhelming experience with it. We put together a video about it. So if you want to see me ugly crying about it, then make sure you check out that video. Now the prices are really inexpensive. So we paid between a bit under 50 US cents to $3 depending on the leg. And the trains from KL to the airport are also relatively inexpensive. So we went from Putrajaya to the airport and that was only $3 US per person. So getting around the country by train is just an amazing way to see the countryside and experience the country in a really relaxing way. Activities in Malaysia. The cool thing about Malaysia is that there are a lot of activities that are for free. So, for example, there's the Batu Caves in Kuala Lumpur, as well as a lot of other religious sites like the Pink Mosque in Putrajaya. These are all free activities to go and explore.
Now, there are plenty of paid activities as well. We found that generally there were more paid activities on the west coast of Malaysia, which we've done in a previous holiday.
Dan ramai yang singgah di Malaysia ni sekaligus buat rawatan pergigian ya, sebab kosnya sangat murah di Malaysia berbanding dengan negara mereka. Okey, begitulah ya bucket list travelers, pasang YouTuber yang telah datang ke Malaysia dan banyak pengalaman duduk di Malaysia untuk beberapa bulan dan memberitahu kita berkenaan dengan penginapan, pengangkutan, makanan dan sebagainya. Terima kasih singgah di sini dan jumpa lagi. Bye-bye.